Hey everybody, this is episode 5 in the series where we're going to talk about the saw blade. We got a piece of wood. It's really windy today. It's a little bit warmer. For the saw blade, we are going to cover sawing, notching, scoring. I don't know about the wire breaker because now I don't got any wire to break. So I suppose I could find something, but it'll probably do it. There's other videos of people breaking wires and stuff, so that's probably about the only thing we're not going to cover. But there's a couple other channels where they break wire. I'll try, if I remember, I'll put the link in the description to their YouTube channel and them breaking wire. So, the saw blade. So we're going to do some sawing. This is a tomato steak. This is how I carry it sometimes also. Just on a belt, over my shoulder, gets it out of the way. Depends on what I'm wearing. This is one of our tomato steaks. It's kind of long, but we're going to use it for a different project. So we're going to go ahead and saw this a little bit. I'm going to move my coffee out of the way. And probably cut this split out of it. And then we can use it for a different project when we get into the quarter rounder. So again, the saw, I use it like this to start out, and then like this once it gets going. So, or like that. Usually once it gets stuck, that's the time to flip it, and this is what I was talking about earlier. So in one of the previous video is I've gone, I don't know if you can see it or not, gone quite a bit through, and then I'll work on this side trying to link all those spots together. We should be able to hand snap it afterwards. This is a little kind of a hard piece. Hopefully you can see that on there, and the grain changes a little bit. Let's go ahead and get a good start. And then pretty much cut till it stops. One more time. As this is what I was talking about before, so I've changed the design diameter of that quite a bit. Probably a good one, good shot on the stump. And then, so it is a saw, but it's not. Okay, put that away for a second and move on to the next part of it. It says notching. Okay, let's do just small. All right, so let's say we want to make a tent steak out of this. Gonna be a pretty big one. And we can get pretty crazy with it. I don't have any small diameter wood, or we could just put a notch in it. The notch is going to be really nice if you were to want to do traps, make tent stakes, those type of items. Kind of went off on a tangent, but start chopping, and there we go. So again, so biggest tent stake in the world. Hopefully you kind of get what I mean. Sharpen one end like so. And we'll put a notch in there. Like say this would be good for trapping, or if you did have to use this monstrous 10 stake. Make a nice size notch, might be enough. And this saw, the way that we go a little bit, take a little bit off the top here. Take these corners off. And I can illustrate that that groove, the 1/4 inch groove that you cut in there, is almost perfect for paracord. Alright, so hopefully it'll go over it now. So if you pretend this is a tent fly and you've got a lashed out paracord, you know, so you drive your stake in the ground, this is not a knife, this is part of your tent, that fits in there almost perfect. Even on a little bit smaller diameter pieces of wood, fits really good. Okay. Next one is notching, so scoring bone. I was going to steal one of my dog's bones, but I don't think she'd be very happy with me, so I ended up finding a deer bone. And you could probably snap this one with hand if you really tried. I don't know, it's pretty hard, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the edge on a 45 degree and these very teeth on the side and score this and see if we can get it to snap a little easier. I've never done this before, but couldn't see why it wouldn't work. It's pretty hard bone. It's partially frozen. I think at this point I probably just chop it. If you can, I guess, do it. Let's see if we can get a good edge on Well, this is an awfully hard bone. We can try it a couple more times, but I don't know. I don't know if I would say that this is a great part, but I don't score a lot of bone. I mean, we're making it through. Let's do it for another couple minutes and see where we're at. Suppose you don't give up. Sorry, my energy's low today. It's kind of a crazy day at work, so hopefully you can see it has made a pretty good sized groove in there. We'll try to go around a little bit more. It is scoring it pretty good, actually. We'd have to score quite a bit more. I'll put a crack in it though, I think. Okay. Hopefully you can see pretty good notch in it. You could probably continue to go around that, but I'm not going to. So, yeah. Kind of want to chop it in half, but let's not. Okay, so we're going to skip the wire breaker part, and let's just go ahead and make this the final, because I feel like saw blade is pretty self-explanatory. Notching's pretty self-explanatory. I sold this to my ear. Let's say the wire breaker, I don't have anything to break wire with. Okay, the quarter rounder. The quarter rounder is the one that makes the track curlies. And hopefully you can see it. It's this area right here. This cutout. right there. That's the quarter rounder. It says in the manual, walk around it this time, you can use it for skinning game, or gutting game, and taking square pieces of wood and making them more round for bow drill spindles and such. This does work. Never used it on a deer per se, but I've done my fair share of small animals, small game, fowl, and rabbits. So it does work. The trick is, see if I can. So you don't start out on the belly portion. You start out on the sternum portion with that cut. Okay. Once you get to where you hit the edge, where the ribs end, and it starts to get in the stomach cavity, then it's just kind of like if you've ever skinned an animal before. You insert 2 fingers into that opening and then use that hook to slowly start to get, and you're lifting it off of the intestines and all the other innards. That's kind of how it works. It's not the best thing in the world, but it will work. So, and then probably the most final thing, a lot of people are very interested in, are the tracker curlies done by the quarter rounder. The most important thing for, I'd say, the use of the quarter rounder. You can use hardwood, would recommend softwood. I would recommend straight grained. Would also recommend very few knots or anything like that. Wood selection is going to be number 1. Number 2 would probably just be angle and a good keen blade. But number 1 is going to be wood. There's just certain woods that don't do a good job curling, and there's some that do. So I'm going to check my frame right here real quick. We're going to pull some curls. Now this is a tomato steak. I'm not sure what it is. I'm guessing it's probably just pine. And it does a pretty good job. The elm, I can get curlies off of it, but it doesn't look really well. They don't stay very tight. They don't get very long just because the grain is so broken up. Hopefully you can see the difference in grain. Like this one's all over the place, kind of. This is relatively straight. Also, I'll use that other piece. Where's that other piece I just put? So when you're pulling tracker curls, you're going to pay attention to the grain orientation. So this is what would be considered a run out. So the grain starts here, goes this way, and then it runs out the side of the board. That is not good. So if you were to try to do a tracker curl on something like this and you were to hit one of these pieces, this is what it's going to do. It's just going to break it right off. So what you want to do, you want to do it opposite. I had a video a long time ago on YouTube, and I was showing that you could only really pull curls one way, and that essentially stays true to this. This direction, it does a pretty nice curl. If we try that same orientation, let's do it this way, it pulls off almost nothing. And if you hit a good spot, it'll actually end up tearing it out. So grain orientation, how the wood's working, how the wood's going, that's going to be a big determining factor. Also, if it gets too round, it's not going to want to pull the edge off. So periodically you might have to trim out one of those big chunks, just like kind of pulling bushcraft curls. You're going to want to make a really nice flat piece, and that'll give you an edge you can pull off. If it gets too round, it doesn't want to pull anymore. Alright, so we're going to try to pull some big ones on this. So I'm just going to obey the laws that I just kind of set forth is grain orientation. Let me check my camera, see how close I am in frame. I'm trying to pull it off that table. Turn you just a little bit. See if we can get some good curlies off of this. And so when I'm purling the curlies, I'm doing the same exact thing that I mentioned before. I'm using the natural stop of my body. I'm just using it in this orientation. So just like when I was said that I was doing a draw knife curl, or I would stop here, I'm not really stopping here. That's how my body stops. Now, if your body is ever in front of that, you're gonna get yourself. That lead arm that you're using should be in front, because it can only go so far. It can't go any farther than that. Even in this orientation, it can only go so far. So if your hand's up here, there's no worry. If your hand's down here, you can draw across your hand. So again, hand in front. See if we can get a pretty good curl. Oop, that one slipped off. Slipped off again. There must be a check right there in that same spot in the wood. Switch it over. That getting kind of tight. Trim this off, flatten it down. Now we're getting some pretty decent curlies. See if I can get a big one. So when I'm holding the knife and I'm pulling curls, I do that kind of that pinch grip that I was talking about earlier, where I'm just kind of pinching the blade between my fingers. The knife essentially is resting on the wood. And both a push in, I'm losing stuff off the side. Both a push in and a pull out, kind of the same way. When you get a tracker, you can kind of tune it. So this doesn't have a factory edge. The same has the same factory bevel, but it doesn't have the same factory edge. A lot of times you can get some like really large curls off of it. I prefer these ones, so I've kind of tuned my tracker to make they're more of a fine, and they'll actually curl on themselves a little bit, not a big loose one like this, more like these ones, because when you make a bird's nest, it works a little better. There's fibers and the air can get inside. Let's get into it. We can get another one out of it. So again, like I said, it's wood selection is going to be pretty much paramount in this. It's starting to get pretty smooth here. So doesn't work. Hardwood splits work pretty good too. You can get it into a split. So I kind of made an edge there a little bit. Nah, maybe I'm going the wrong way. Let's try, okay? There's one. Some pretty decent curls. I might have been doing that the wrong way the whole time. That might be the reason why I doesn't get very good curls. Oh, there was a split out. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that piece is it's getting there. Woo. Hello everybody. All right, so we are at the end of the 5th video. Thank you for hanging with me this long. So hopefully I covered pretty much everything. Any kind of questions that you had, feel free to ask in the comments section, or if you are on Bushcraft USA, send me a PM, something like that if you have any questions on how I do stuff. Now, there will be one more section, one more episode, and it'll deal with sharpening. I feel like sharpening is one of the, it's probably neat, it's kind of its own video, because there's a bunch of different methods, and there's a bunch of different methods you can use, and they all kind of can give you whatever you want in a blade. Typically, I use mine like a hatchet. I mean, that's kind of how I use mine. So, like, I can pull curlies, but I don't really have mine sharp like that, if that makes any sense. Mine's more of a tool. I use it like a shovel, like an axe, like a pickaxe, like, I don't know, I guess like a Minecraft tool. I use mine like a tool. We'll look at how they have in this book of sharpening, how they do the chopping edge, how they do the straight edge, and how they get like the quarter round and stuff like that, and what they describe in the book. And like I say, that'll be in the last episode of the series, in episode 6. And then what I planned on doing was to do like a video of this, the Tom Brown Tracker T-1, in conjunction with other tools. Like I say, I use mine almost like a hatchet or like a survival type blade. So I baton, I chop a lot of stuff. That's what I use it for. So mine doesn't carry me. It's got a good edge on it. I can do, man, I can do still do some really decent small curls if I wanted to, but I don't ever really use it like that. Even the quarter round, this is a pretty gnarly piece of wood. It does work, but I don't typically use mine like that. My edge is pretty much the same all the way around. For the longest time, I would keep these two edges just kind of axe-like and really work this area to get it really super fine. But typically, I'm carrying a Swiss Army knife, I'm carrying a Mora, I'm carrying something with me, probably a pocket knife usually. I don't really do, this is kind of my belt knife. I might neck carry if I plan on using you know, something for food prep or small carving tasks. I mean, I have carved spoons with this, fully carved them. I mean, they're okay. You could use them as a spoon, but they ain't pretty by any means. So, again, probably the last episode will be sharpening and how I sharpen mine. There's a million different ways to sharpen it. There's a million different edges that you want. Mine, I like kind of a toothy edge. Kind of like I say, it's designed for work. It's not really designed for decorative carving at, you know, a camp area. This is, I keep mine like a sharpened pry bar, and that's what I use mine as. So, like I say, thanks for hanging. We'll do probably one more video on episode 6 of like just sharpening and different versions of sharpening and different methods, different, I guess, media, from, you know, different things. So we'll talk about that, and then I'll probably just make some videos where I take this in conjunction with a few things and make stuff with them. So again, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you had a good time. I did. Peace.